I'm Dave.
I'm Yvonne, and if you're anything like me, then you have probably seen this beautiful, curvy, sexy mirror all over your Pinterest or Instagram, even TikTok, and we decided to go ahead and DIY it. I do want to address that we did not design this from scratch or anything like that. This is all Gustaf Westman's work. However, we do not have the funds to buy it from him, but we do have the funds to DIY it.
Yeah, so we noticed that a couple of people were posting their DIYs on TikTok. However, a lot of them were just kind of videos of people cutting and then trying to pasting the mirror and stuff. They weren't very descriptive. And we noticed a lot of comments of people asking for a DIY video that kind of goes through the steps of how they created that mirror. We didn't have one to go off of ourselves, so we decided to try to make this video to tell you guys how we made it. We're by no means professionals, so we made a couple mistakes along the way, and hopefully you guys don't make the same mistakes, and we'll go through that later in this video, and I hope you guys find this useful.
So now let's see the steps.
Alright, so for the first step, the way that I did it was I googled Gustaf Westman mirror dimensions. I went to images, click this one right here, go to the website, or you can go directly to the website, gustafwestman.com/curvy-mirror. I went ahead and right click this image right here, go ahead and copy image, then go over here to PowerPoint. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and delete this. Next step we're going to do here is go to the design tab, and we're going to do custom slide size. We're going to do a width of 24 by 36 inches. It doesn't matter which option you choose here, so just choose whichever, as long as you don't have any content yet. And we're going to go ahead and paste our image and make that much larger. Again, this might be different for you. The reason that I'm doing it 24 by 36 is because I will later be printing this at Office Depot, and that's the blueprint dimensions that they offer. And I thought it was a reasonable price, and I'll show you guys how to do that in a bit. So we're going to go ahead and crop it here. So you can see the dimensions here are 1800 by 1050, and I'm not 100% sure because I don't own an actual Gustaf Westman mirror, but I think the most reasonable assumption to make here is that it is in millimeters. So I just went ahead and went with that. So go over here, try to get it about the middle more or less, as good as you can. It doesn't really have to be perfect. Do the same thing on the right. And we're just going to go ahead and do all the sides here. Alright, go ahead and press escape. And there we have that. Now I'm going to do right click. Let's see. No, we're going to go to format, align, go ahead and bring it to the left and to the top. So we go back here. We know that the height was 1800 millimeters. We're going to go ahead and type that. And that's our full size right there. Now we want to trim this down to the 24 by 36 page. Again, I am doing this based off of my dimensions. You guys might have to do a little bit of squishing or squashing here and there to fit your particular mirror size. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to drop a message below, comment, and I will do my best to help you out. So let's see, format picture. We're going to go over here. This little image side. We're going to go to crop position. So we're going to do 24 by 36. Cool. So we got ourselves kind of like a quarter of a shape here. And if you drag this around, you will see that it matches that size right there. Control Z. So we're going to do a right click. And we want to save this as an image. So save as picture. So you can see I have a couple of trials here. But yeah, so let's go ahead and name this Gustaf Westman Edit V3 in my case. You name it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now that we've done that, I went ahead and went to Office Depot website. Go to Services, Print and Copy, and we're gonna look for the blueprint. So here we go. Let us see. We're going to choose the black and white option because we're cheap, and that makes a significant change in the price. So we're going to keep the size. As you can see here, the size that we're printing on is 24 by 36. So let's go ahead and upload our file. You can just drag and drop your image here if you'd like, or you can search for it. So I'm going to search for it. Go ahead and hit upload. And now we wait. Awesome. So as you can see here, this is what we printed out, and we later cut this out, and we'll be showing you guys that. And just go ahead and add to cart. It took us about a day to receive this. You could choose larger paper, but you have to wait, I believe. At least that's what I was told. But yeah, I received this the next day, and it was pretty quick.
Our print lines were too thick for us to be able to cut, so we took a pencil and we redefined our lines. We then took an X-Acto knife and we cut where we made our lines. And next, if you're finding this useful, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, or just one of those is fine.
So what we're using here is 3/4 inch birch. We chose this because it's a light color, and what we have in the bottom here is something very glossy. I don't remember what the name of it was, but we'll be using it for the back, and I'll reference that later. The reason that we're not creating the main front panel of our mirror out of this bottom nice glossy side is because we don't want to have to struggle with trying to get the paint to adhere to our material, right? So we actually got this at Menards, and we rented a truck because we don't own a truck, and we were able to get it down here. An original mirror. The sides of the box are about 5.9 inches in length. So in order just to make it easier for myself, I went ahead and created a line of 6 inches separated from the edge here. And as you can see, you go along, it's about 6 inches. And you're gonna try to get that as close as possible. The way that I did it is I have this little tool right here. So you go along and you get yourself a pencil. Obviously this is not a pencil, but it does the trick. And you set a mark 6 inches from the edge here, and then you just kind of keep doing that every couple of inches and making sure that you stay 6 inches from the edge there along the way. And once you have a total of, I don't know how many marks make up this board, but as many marks as get you to the other side, you go ahead and get a straight edge here. You line up all the previous dots that you make. If you look closely right here, you can see where I made my marks. They don't have to be perfect, but they have to be close. So you go ahead and do that. You line up right here, and then you make your lines. So that's why I chose that dimension, and that's why that looks like that. And then obviously we're not gonna have different length sides along the build here. So what we did is we created another 6 inch edge distance marker on this side of the mirror. Right? So this is gonna make up the longer edge of the mirror. So what I did is after I drew my lines, right, this is our short side. We lined that up right there in the corner, lined that up right there against the edge that we previously drew. And I used tape to kind of go ahead and keep this down so that I can follow along the lines without it flapping all over the place for me. And if you lift up here, you can see where I've already drawn some of the lines. So I'll go ahead and show you guys one and how we are going to connect them so that we can, get this whole mirror together. You want to be able to flip this and get it the same copy but flipped on the other side of the piece of wood here. So what I did was I know that there's 3 curves on this shorter side of the mirror. So I went ahead and found the halfway point of that middle curve, and I bent my piece of paper like that. And by doing that, I was able to mark the halfway point. So I went ahead and drew a little bit of a line right there just to kind of position myself later. And once I did that, you can go ahead and flip this like so. Flip that along there. make sure you maintain the closeness right there next to your edge that you've drawn before. Find the line that you drew before. You've already bent your paper. And boom, you got yourself half a Gustaf Westman mirror. So after we've drawn this other quadrant of our mirror here, you want to go ahead and mark where the paper ends right there. And the reason that we're doing that is because we didn't use any line as a guide for positioning this. We used one of these curves. Unlike on this side that we see over here, we were able to line the paper up against that edge that we're later going to be cutting. So with that, we mark it, and then what you go ahead and do is you measure the distance where that line is at. For me, that's about 28 millimeters. So I go over here and make a line there. Go over here, make a line there. And we'll go ahead and do that all throughout this board here. So we can go ahead and draw our line. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the other half. So what you wanna do is you wanna line up one of these curves with a curve that you've drawn before. And the reason that we do that is that we don't wanna just choose a random spot. We wanna stay together, and that will keep us dimensionally accurate.
And like us, you can always add more squigglies.
So here we're going to be using a circular saw with a laser that we got at Home Depot, and hopefully this is going to keep us straight. We were planning on using a jigsaw, but we figured that this would be more precise. Also, this has a nifty little thing here that helps you maintain edge distance. So I set it to be 6 inches from the edge there. So here our circular saw allows us to have a 45-degree angle, and the reason that we're doing that is because we want the joints to be seamless later. Always remember, safety! For this next part, we're going to be using a drill, and I got the smallest bit that I have in my set of drill bits. And the reason that I'm doing that is that I'm going to be making a series of holes along this line so that I can later use my jigsaw. And I actually broke my drill bit there. Not good, but I think we'll be okay.
Next, we have to smooth out these curves. And
In order to do that, I picked this guy up at Home Depot. We will be using it with a drill, and I don't think it was intended to be used this way, so be careful because a drill has a lot of power and it may be difficult to get those finer details. You might be able to use a Dremel instead, but we were too cheap to buy one, so we were hoping for the best.
now it's time to cut the missing side.
So we know that this is in fact 6 inches here. However, as you guys can see here, this is slightly oversized compared to this one, and we want them to match. So instead of going and making the marks along the entire thing, Yvonne here is going to be tracing our previous line here. I guess when it comes to craftsmanship, one would consider this sloppy, but we're just going to go ahead and roll with it anyways. So we're aligning it here, making sure we're straight and narrow. We're going to be aligning it from this side along the length of the beam. We're going to be using these corner brackets to secure the sides of the box to the front of the frame. We're not saying that you should absolutely use these, but we're using these and we're just kind of hoping for the best. I picked these up at Menards. I recommend you have a container nearby to put your screws and stuff so they're not wobbling around all over the place and falling. So start off by aligning your sides here. And go something like that. Push up against the side, making sure that they're aligned correctly. Do a little double check right there. Looks like we're good. And then we want to go ahead and line these up. Put that down right there. Just hold. Push down gently. Draw 1, 2, and 3.
Now we're going to mark the center of each of our circles so we can target them with our drill bit later.
We're going to line that up right there. Make our circles. Okay, now that we're done with that, we're ready to flip it over. But before we do, let me give you guys a rundown of what we ended up putting on here. So as before, we had these 2.5 inch length corners brackets, and we put 4 along the long ends. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we put 2 on each of these. And in order to bring the corners together, we ended up using these. Well, this goes together, but they're a little bit longer. These are 3.5 inch length, and we put them on the corners here. It's kind of tricky getting these in these tight crevices and everything. So what we ended up doing was switch to this, which is actually part of it's part of a screwdriver, but it fits well in here and well enough, and it's just long enough for us to be able to get in these corners like this and like this. And now we're gonna flip it for the reveal.
Okay, because we clearly made a lot of miscalculations. There's a bunch of slits all over our box. So we're gonna try to make up for that by filling them in with what people use for like their wall holes. So after watching like 2 how-to videos, we learned that you're supposed to do it on like a relatively clean area, because if it's not gonna adhere to your wall, or in this case your box. So make sure you clean it off, all of the debris that you may have, all of the particles from the cutting and all of that stuff. We are using this one. We got it from Home Depot. It's called Fast Dry Premium Spackling DAP. It says that it's supposed to dry in 15 minutes, so we'll see about that. You can always use a spatula or an old plastic card in order to apply the wood filler. Okay, so now that we let the filler dry overnight, we're gonna be sanding off the rough edges or the rough surfaces with this sanding paper right here. We went with a 320 grit just because it's very fine, and we need that right now because we don't want any like harsh lines, especially since they're gonna be very noticeable once we paint it. So we're gonna get started and just go over all the places that we put filler in, as well as some of the natural imperfections that happen when we cut the wood. I've noticed that on the pictures that the frame looks kind of glossy, so I went for the highest gloss of paint. If you go to Home Depot, you can just choose any color, select for the highest gloss, and they'll give it to you. They'll make that combination for you. So we got this from Home Depot. It was about $15, I believe. This is what it's like 30 ounces. I asked the girl, I showed her the project that we're working on, and she said that it would be just enough, even more than we need to. So yeah, we went with Lazy Caterpillar. I'll try to zoom in this if this is possible. It's kind of like that, kind of like turquoise green, limey green. Not sure how to describe it, but hopefully it looks like the ones on the pictures.
So we don't want to ruin our awesome clothes that we have on, so we're gonna go ahead and change, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
Oh my gosh, she's beautiful, guys. I'm gonna do a swatch. So doozy.
So the last and final step for this before we close off the box is making sure that our mirror stays in position. So what we've gone and done here is our mirror is a 1/4 inch thick. So then we got some 1/4 inch wood and we cut it up into some long slats and we placed it along the edges of our mirror here. Before we do our screwing, we want to make sure that these things aren't going anywhere. The screwing could cause it to twist and kind of come off from the mirror. So in order to prevent some of that, we gotta show up some really nice small nails here. We got some thin ones like that because we don't want to damage our product. So what we're doing here is you take your nail, you set it to the corner right there, right up there like that. Make sure it's touching. You pack it in just a little bit. Set it on one side. And do the same on the other side. As you can see here, I've already done this before. I was testing it out before we started filming. But I'll just go ahead and show you guys anyways. Just like that. Not going nowhere. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do the same for all of our lengths along the mirror. Our wood material here is pretty soft and our nails are pretty small. So if you find that it's really difficult for you to have your hammer getting in there in those tough spots, it's actually soft enough that you can get another piece of wood and then just drive it in. Just push it in like that. We're good to go. So the next step is to secure the mirror down to our frame here. And what we did was we cut some additional 1/4 inch wood at about the length of the slat, maybe a little bit less. And we try to do it about double the width of each of these slats. We have a couple of these. The next step is to screw those down. We're using some wood screws here. As you can see, these are about 1 inch in height. And if we've got a 1/4 inch in here, then ideally we should have about 1/2 inch of that being inserted into our frame. And we tested that out earlier and we think that it'll be enough. But I just hope for the best.
Nice.
Looks like it's nice and good. We did a test right now. We stood it up and nothing fell or broke. The next step is to close this thing off. Next, we're gonna create the back. And we have this table surface that we've been using as the material of choice, mostly because we're not gonna paint it. It's nice and white for the most part.
Cheap.
And it was cheap. We got this at Menards for, I can't remember the exact price.
25, I think.
Maybe like 25 bucks. I guess cheap depending on, your situation. But it was much cheaper than buying this stuff again, which we really didn't want to do. We're just going to be tracing the box. We lined it up as best as we could along this edge, so we just have 2 lines to trace. After we've made our trace of the outline of our box here, we know that the thickness of each panel is 3/4 of an inch. So in order for this back panel to sit inside the box, we're gonna be subtracting 1.5 inches. So here we got 1/2 inch and then 1 inch. And that's where we're gonna make our line. Just like before. Now that we've made our 1.5 offset line on the long edge, we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on these short edges.
For this step, we fit the back panel inside our box, then we added some brackets for support. The last and final step is to close the back of our box forever. So we're going to be using these things that we found at Home Depot. But before we screw that into the wood, out of fear of splitting it, we're going to be drilling some pilot holes.
And this is the final product.
So this is the final product, and we're going to be linking all of the dimensions of our mirror on the link in the description below. Also, we're trying to brainstorm what to do with our leftover wood. We're thinking either a headboard would be really nice, or maybe even like a funky curvy desk. So we want you guys to vote and let us know what you want us to do with it, and we'll do another video. I think it'd be really interesting to do another DIY with the scraps of this DIY.
Yeah. So I hope you guys find this useful, and we'll also be dropping another link down below to my SoundCloud. My artist name is Dave No, and Yvonne and I will hopefully be collaborating on a song soon. I'm very new to this, so I only have about 3 songs, but hopefully you guys will be able to see that we show some progress. And thanks for watching.